Welcome to the telling of our short, scary story, The Tricks and Treats of Havenbrooks House. If you're enjoying these, please like and subscribe. Now, let's begin. Every kid in Havenbrook knew about the thrills of trick-or-treating along Highview Hill, a steep climb lined with houses that all ended in cul-de-sacs. It was the perfect place for any kid with a sweet tooth, as you could even fill a pillowcase by the end of the night. There was only one problem on this perfect street. Beneath the whispers and laughters of kids sprinting from one porch to the next loomed the sinister legend of Havenbrooks House. Sitting hidden at the bottom of the hill, the last driveway of the last street, down a long and overgrown, winding path, Havenbrooks House looked like something straight out of a nightmare. No one dared approach it, except for those looking to prove something. Year-round it loomed abandoned. Yet on Halloween, a single porch light flickered to life, and a lonely bowl of candy sat beneath it. Will's brother and his friends had tried to grab that candy once, but before they could reach the house, a curtain moved, and an agonizing scream echoed from inside. They'd run, the story haunting them and Will's friends ever since. Will's brother was the largest kid in town, the star of the basketball team. If even he was afraid, what hope did these kids have? This Halloween, though, Will and his friends, Jessica, Randy, Tyler, and Ashley, had one goal: to make it up every street, fill their pillowcases, and be the first kids to ever take candy from the infamous Havenbrooks house. It was their last Halloween as kids before the parties of high school became more important. Randy had been going on all night about how cool they'd be if they could survive it. With the hill complete and bags filled, they crept down the creepy, winding driveway. The moonlight flickered through the trees, casting shadows that seemed to claw at them. Havenbrooks house emerged from the darkness, a decaying manor draped in ivy and shattered windows that loomed like hollow eyes. The only light was the flickering bulb on the porch, illuminating a chipped, dusty bowl of candy beneath it. They waited, straining to hear anything, a creak, a whisper, but only the sounds of their own heartbeats filled the silence. "Let's just grab it and go," Jessica whispered, her voice tight. Will moved first. Having lived in his brother's impressive shadow long enough, he imagined his brother's shocked face when he had heard they'd taken candy from Havenbrooks house. Slowly they edged towards the porch, each step crunching against the gravel. Will reached out, his hand brushing the candy bowl, and for a moment nothing happened. A sigh of release washed over them all. But Randy, triumphant, couldn't resist. "Come on, aren't we forgetting something?" he said with a smirk, reaching out and jabbing the doorbell. The sound echoed like thunder, and before they could react, the porch gave way beneath their feet. They plummeted down a slick, twisting slide, their screams swallowed by darkness. When they landed, groaning and dazed, it was into a bizarre room, one that shouldn't have existed beneath the ruined house. Around them, walls gleamed with candy and treats, colored paints and posters of the most fantastic candy shop you'd seen. Shelves overflowed with every sugary treat imaginable, from glistening lollipops to chips and drinks that seemed to shine under the fluorescent lights. A sweet, nauseating smell filled the air. Randy grinned, stuffing his mouth with a handful of chocolates. "Guys, we hit the jackpot." "Don't eat anything," Will warned, but Tyler and Ashley were already tearing into candy bars, laughing as though the house hadn't just swallowed them whole. Jessica clung to Will's arm, eyes wide with dread. Will tried the door, yanking at the handle. It didn't budge. "Guys, it's locked." Panic started to creep into his voice. For a time, all seemed alright, until suddenly the lights dimmed. The colorful shelves flickered, revealing a more sinister truth. Behind the sugary decorations, old bloodstains and claw marks marred the walls. The candy didn't look so sweet anymore. And from somewhere beyond the walls, a slow, rhythmic chanting began. The friends exchanged terrified glances, the weight of the legend crashing down on them all. Havenbrooks House was no ordinary haunted place. It was a trap. The chanting grew louder, and the room grew colder. Jessica clutched Will's arms tighter. "We have to get out of here," she whispered. But Randy, Tyler, and Ashley had already started to change, their faces paling, their eyes glazing over, as if the house itself had drained them. They lurched towards Will and Jessica, laughing and smiling a sickly smile. Sugary drool fell from their open mouths as they tried to feed sweets to Will and Jessica, no longer looking like their friends from moments ago. "Come on," Will pulled Jessica through the door when the weight of the five had pushed it open, slamming it shut behind them as their friends' hollow voices echoed after them, laughing, begging them to stay. They stumbled through a maze of rooms, each more twisted than the last, one filled with mirrors that distorted their reflections, another lined with dusty photos of children who had once been just like them. Every door they tried either led to another nightmare or looped them back to the candy room, where the chanting seemed to grow louder, pressing against their minds. It became clear that Havenbrooks House was more than just haunted. As the chanting stopped, cloaked figures filled the halls of the house. Dark, blood-red robes. Even in the smell of the old house, Will noticed the principal's terrible cologne. Looking more closely, the man next to him had his neighbor's, Mr. Aston's, watch poking out of the sleeve of his robe. Jessica noticed it as well. The woman approaching her had purple lipstick. Only one woman in town wore it, Randy's mom. The realization hit these kids as this wasn't just a haunted house, but a cult made from the adults of town. With the furious energy of kids who had been eating sugar all night and the adrenaline of fear, Will and Jessica sprang forward, kicking and clawing at any who got near. Following the trail of red-robed adults, Will and Jessica finally spotted a faint glow in the distance. The porch light. Their hearts pounded as they sprinted down a narrow hallway towards it, the walls pulsing around them like the house's heartbeat. Behind them, the chanting rose again, and they could feel hands reaching out, brushing their skin. With one final desperate push, they burst through the front door, tumbling onto the lawn. They didn't stop to look back, sprinting up the long driveway, the cool night air burning in their lungs. But as they reached the road, Jessica stopped, her eyes wide with horror. Will turned, his heart sinking. At the edge of the driveway, figures stood in shadow. The adults, their faces no longer hidden, watching them with unblinking eyes. Each held a candle, their faces set in grim, hungry expressions. They had escaped the house, but not its horrors. Grabbing Jessica's hand, Will tore down the street, the shadows stretching behind them as the cult of Havenbrooks House watched, waiting, their chanting fading into the night like a promise. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed the Tricks and Treats of Havenbrooks House, our newest scary story in the short story editions. I hope you guys like and subscribe, and keep enjoying, and I'll see you next time on the Keenan Schlecht Writing channel. Bye.